I'm Michelangelo Badio with another installment of No Boundaries. And next to me is Rob Ross. You know Rob from playing on the original version of No Boundaries that's got 23 million views. Rob's played on some of my best songs, our Rainforest, 2X Again. And then we did a version of Hurt together where people actually said on the video we were wearing the same shirt, right? Yeah, and they're like, dude, I didn't know you played drums, man. And But that's in the top 5 right now on Spotify of my most popular songs. But Rob's been on a lot of my originals over the years, and we played bands together. And, I wanted to talk a little bit about, what he's going through. I wanted you to hear some of his story about some of the things that have gone on in his life. And I also want to talk first about, well, let's do the shout outs. I want to say hello to Tanya. Hello to Denny. Let's see who else is there. Alexis, Brett, Nick, Jenny, Rob.
Hey,
so
Mike.
why don't you say?
Hi, Daniela, and Tommy, and Christina, and Jason, and hi, everybody. Great to see you again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there's Matthew online.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have Constantine. But there are a lot of people, I'm really grateful for all the support over the last couple of years. We started this with COVID. It's still going strong. And right now, Sawtooth had a sale over the summer, and it was over yesterday. And so they have, this is one of my first signature guitars with Sawtooth. We did a satin white and a satin black. And the satin white, now they make a couple versions, one with the Wilkinson trem and one with the original Floyd Rose. This is the German-made top-of-the-line Floyd Rose. It's on sale for $459 right now. And it's a really, just to buy a tremolo like this would cost you hundreds of dollars. So, it's a really great deal. And I love it. I used this exact guitar on tour before COVID, and it's just been amazing. I have my string dampeners on here. They work great. But
Somebody said there, I thought it was Bob Ross. I
So anyway, I brought Rob here because we've gone through a lot of stuff. Like, we were in bands together when I was still going to college, and we were in a really successful cover band called Freeze back in the day. And we had a female lead singer, Karen, that was awesome. Our bass player, Bill, could sing lead vocals. I could sing lead vocals. Rob could sing harmonies. We had another guitarist, Mark McNally, in the band who co-wrote So, that turned out to be 8 Pillars of Steel, but we had a super talented band, and we still have the record. What is the record, Rob?
21 days in a row.
Yeah, I have not been able to beat that yet. We got close. The last tour I did before COVID, I hit 20 days in a row. But we used to play about 25 days a month, and when I first joined the band, I was still going to school. I had about 3 months left of school. I joined in September, and I graduated in that December. And man, that was crazy. Like, we'd play hundreds. How far is the Quad Cities from here?
Oh, I don't know, 2.5 hours, 3 hours
yeah,
at the
so,
most.
Yeah, so we'd play, till 1:30 in the morning, and then I'd drive, 2.5, 3 hours to come back. I lived at home still at my parents', and then go to school the next day. It was really something. But, Rob, why don't you tell a little bit of your story here? I don't know where you want to start.
Oh man, I don't know. We traveled a lot. We were gone a lot, and And you know, they would show up with the car and the band car, and we'd meet their own crew in Quad Cities, and then you know we'd end up in Des Moines, Iowa, and Wisconsin, and it was a great time. It really was. And, you know, we got really tight because we played, you know, 25 days out of the month, and in front of people. You know, it's a lot different than sitting in rehearsal halls. I mean, you really get your chops going.
And we used to drink a lot.
Yes, we did. One place we played, we were in Flint, Michigan. You remember that place?
The Micatan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We walk in, this place is packed. It turns out that, you know, they used to have 2-for-1s, and, you know, for 5 to 7 for 2-for-1s. We walk in, they had 10-for-1s.
Yeah, the guy would
10
go,
for
he was
ones.
from the Middle East, and so he had kind of a Middle East American accent. He'd go, and you'd hear over the PA, 10 for 1! 10 for 1! You know, and yeah, there were some crazy times. I mean, insane times. And, you know, I don't have that addictive personality, but if I did today what I did back then, I'd be dead. You know, the only one that'll be talking is Joey. I mean, I couldn't. You know, it was just insane. And all the shows that we played, I mean, we had a really good booking agent, but we were playing 25 shows a month. And some of these sets, how many sets would we do? What's the most?
It depends. 4 was the most we did in the night.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 4. And also, too, wait, I want to just show you one thing. That's a Floyd Rose. So I'm going to cut in and out here, but I wanted to show this because I started thinking about when I was playing in Freeze, I used to use standard bridges. But I mean, I just bent this bar all the way to the body. And it is still perfectly in tune. And you know what? Floyd's are not, a lot of guitars aren't made with Floyd Roses right now because it's not the technology. The technology is sound. This is the greatest tremolo that's ever been made. And it locks on both sides, and it's got a micro adjustment. So once you tune this up and lock it, that's it. The only thing that changes is if you break a string. And so, you know, a lot of people don't like to change the strings on this because it takes a little longer. You have to know a little more about it. There are springs in the back that you have to adjust. But I'm telling you, with this guitar on sale with the best Floyd Rose that's made in the world, for this price, you can't beat it. And I'm a firm believer in Floyd's because I love the sound. It's not just the use of. I'm going to put this all the way down. Perfectly in tune. You just can't do that on any other trem. A Wilkinson, I love those trems, but they're traditional tremolos. You can't do it on a Fender tremolo, or it's just the best. And that's why I like it. But I like the tone of it. It's not just the bar. I like the sound, and I like the stability of these guitars. So, because we are doing a promotion, Sawtooth promotes and helps with the show. So, but I love the guitars, and I mean, this guitar is really great. The M24 series is just fantastic. Now, I'm going to ask Rob a question because when we were in Freeze, now we were in our early 20s, I was still going to college. We partied like maniacs. I mean, we could stay up drinking all night.
Yeah,
and what we used to do, we used to like have a room like designated party room, and we'd find a corner of the hotel where we'd throw the beer cans. So we'd finish them and just toss them in the corner. And our sound man, Mike Piper, is about 6'5", and he's huge. He's almost 2 meters tall. And you know, and he's big dude. He's always been that way. And he was a really fantastic sound man. In fact, he ended up working, I think it was for Jam Productions, right? Yeah. He worked for one of the biggest companies. You know, he ended up really making it in the big leagues. But he used to have this funny thing. because he could do whatever he wanted, but he never acted or looked like he was drunk or stoned or everything. And he used to sit with these matches, like we'd be sitting in the hotel room, and he'd chew on a match, he'd go, and they'd stick to the ceiling. And at the end of the night, there'd be like 50 matches up there. Now, why he did that, I don't know. But we would look, it was like this look on his face. It was almost like John Belushi's look of satisfaction. I mean, it was so crazy.
You wouldn't notice it until you sat down or laid down on the bed. You look up and see all these
there's like a million matches stuck. But he would sit there and go, and it would doink, and we used to look, when you think back, and these times were just, they were insane.
Yeah, they were. I remember throwing the beer cans in the corner. There's like 100 beer cans.
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of beer.
But they were a 10-cent deposit. So when the maids would come in, they take them for deposit.
Yeah. I mean, they don't do anything like that anymore.
No, they don't.
But here's the one thing. Like, I don't have an addictive personality. I've been straight for a long, long time. I mean, I still drink a little bit, but nothing like I used to. But we were young. You could party and then get up the next day, do it again. You get older, you party, and the next day you don't feel so good, and the day after you still don't feel very good. And but Joey feels good. But anyway, Rob,
You just keep drinking, and you
I kind of tell him what you do now.
Yeah, it's been a while a long time since I've drank or done anything like that, I haven't had a drink in a long time. And I try to help other guys, that have had the same problem. Early mid '90s, it got really bad. In fact, if I would have kept going, I would have never made it out of the '90s. And it definitely would have killed me. And I was telling Mike that probably half of my musician friends are either sober or they should be sober. Or they die. You get to a certain age, and it's all fun and games when you're young, but man, at some point, it doesn't happen to everybody. It happened to me, it turned into a nightmare, really. I was telling Adam, hi Adam, I'm drinking a quart to half a gallon of vodka a day.
Well, here's what happened. In the '90s, I had Stuart Bull from Lick Library come to Chicago. He lived in England at the time. He's British. And he comes to Chicago, and I'd known Stuart, and we had negotiated me doing an instructional video for Lick Library. Not a video, I'm sorry. They were jam tracks. And so Stuart came out to visit, and then it was me, Stuart, and Rob, and all of a sudden, Stuart goes up, and Rob, you know that he said this, he goes, Michael, I'm like, what? He goes, your friend's an alcoholic. And I go, no, he isn't. It's Rob, because we've drank 1 million beers together. And he goes, and he's like, oh, I know, because I've drank a lot. And here we had the intervention.
My brother came over.
I never knew it. We're working on No Boundaries. And I'm the one who screws up. Here, Rob does the drum tracks, and he programs this stuff. And then I go to save it, and I erase it. And we used to go to like a bar to, just chill out, have a few beers, and I didn't know.
Well, I said to Mike, I come over with a 12-pack. I drink 9, and he drinks 3, and have this much left in the bottom.
I never drink the whole can.
I'd have to go and go get more, and you didn't see the half pint that I pounded before I got there. But anyway.
Well, now you counsel people.
Yeah, so, kind of do that. So.
Well, you've been sober for
24
decades.
years.
Yeah, 24 years. So, and I hardly ever drink. It's just you get to a point in your life, and I think that's why I can still play the way I do. And Rob's still a great drummer. We still do a lot of recording. You get to a point, whether you're Aerosmith or somebody else, you don't straighten out. It's over. I don't mean you're going to die, but it's. You're going to lose the talent that you had. And it's not even really the talent. You lose the facility to make that talent work for you.
I couldn't play. I had no coordination. And I'm not a witch burner, man. I'll tell you what, if I could get away with it, I'd still be doing it, But I can't, but that's just me, and it doesn't bother me at all. My life is a lot better. But, I didn't do anything for quite a while because I was unable, You know, it was people would call, I wouldn't answer the phone. I'd answer the phone, and I'd make plans, and then I wouldn't show up. You know, so
Yeah, it got
but-
crazy. And, I was thinking about that because here we're working on No Boundaries, and my very first solo album, it hit the charts. It enabled me to buy a house. I mean, I made a lot of money on it, but it was, I was an artist. I didn't try to make money. It was an artistic achievement for me, my very first solo album. And here Rob plays on, a quarter of the record. He played on Rainforest, Science Fiction, 2X Again, No Boundaries, the big No Boundaries version off Speed Kills. And I never knew, and I think that's the thing with some people. You can hide it,
for
I
a
just
while,
didn't
but
know.
then after a while, I mean,
Yeah,
you
can't.
just can't.
Yeah,
Just
it's
can't,
so anybody out there, and the reason why I talk about it is like Rob's a super success story. It takes willpower. It takes it takes, you have to concentrate on this. It's kind of, whether it's practicing guitar or just doing
Yeah.
something, but you have to have what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's like you have to be able to just like say no, as the old phrase goes, but you have to be able to self-discipline. That's the word.
Yes.
You have to have the phrase. You have to have the self-discipline to stop and stay stopped. And
Yeah.
what's your ding, 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 ding,
Oh
ding?
yeah.
It's got the bullshit
BS
detector.
detector. Ding 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 ding.
Yeah. So, because once you've lived through it, it's kind of like me playing guitar. I can watch somebody for 30 seconds and I can sum up what's going on with their playing, just like he can when he sponsors people and they give them this lame excuse as to why they really want to stop, but they just can't seem to do it. And,
Well, I did all the same stuff.
yeah, okay.
And
And this, I'm reading some, what you are able to conceive and believe you can achieve. That's actually Napoleon Hill from the book Think and Grow Rich. I've read that a million times. But
if you really want to do something, you'll find a way to do it. Is what I found. I'm fortunate. I mean, really, I look at the way things were and how they are today. And really, things are good.
yeah, and somebody writes, MAB hits 400 BPM on 16th notes after drinking a monster drink with a shot of cocaine. That actually wasn't too far off. But yeah, I mean, I think about it now, but it's the times are so different. I mean, even back then they used to say cocaine's the one drug that won't hurt you.
Yeah, it's a party drug. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, seriously, that's what people used
Yeah.
to think back then.
It's not a party drug.
No, it's a kill you drug, and it just reminded me of you have a couple drinks and you think you play really great, and then you record it or film it and you listen back and you go, that sucks.
Yeah, really. 2:00 in the morning, we'd be at his house.
Yeah, we used to my parents, I've always had a studio. So my parents, because I grew up in the Midwest, so we always had basements. So back in the day, my dad was a builder and he had a bunch of leftover material. So me and my friends, our lighting man, his name is Mark Kajalowski, and his father was a plumber. This guy he knew about conduit and all. He could wire things. He was a great electrician, and so I was good at cutting stuff and trim and all that. So we actually remodeled my parents' basement and turned it into a studio. So and my parents loved it because, people used to say, well, don't you think it's a little loud? And my mom used to say, but at least I know where my kids are. I know where my son is at night, because we were always practicing. But I remember 2 or 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
we'd be buzzed out of our mind. If I fell in love with you, would you promise to be true?
We had rehearsal the next night, and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, it was just funny. But here's one of the things that I used to do. I have all these tapes. In fact, I have about 90 gigabytes of digitized analog tape from me over the years. And here's what I would do. I would put on a cassette or whatever we used to record. 99% of it is cassettes. And believe it or not, cassettes, the tape has held, whatever they did to it, you can play cassettes that are 30, 40 years old, and they still sound pretty good.
And what
know.
goes is the I don't know what the material you would call it where the tape would go across
Yeah.
to keep it in
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cotton
the
or
heads.
whatever. Yeah.
The heads
That's
and all
what
that.
goes.
But I have a really good cassette deck, and so you line the heads, you clean them off with alcohol, and and I'm telling you, cassettes just sounded great, especially when you align the heads. And so the engineer we used that did Hurt and a bunch of songs that Rob and I work on now, he was able to digitize all this analog stuff and actually take the noise out and actually make it sound better. But here's the thing that I was saying. This is what I did. Even when I was a young kid, I always thought to date things, and because I don't know, it's just in my blood. I wanted it to bring me back to where I was at that time. And even when I was 14 years old, I'd be June 2nd,
Yes.
19. But I did this. So we'd sit there, and it'd be like September 23rd, 3 a.m., 1981. It was a great day outside. And I would describe the day, describe the time, the exact date. And I'm telling you, when we listen to this stuff back, it's like, it just puts you exactly, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I did this my whole life. And even now, like I make lists, like I could do it in computers. I'm really good with computers. Actually handwrite a list, like things to do. Now, it's not every day because you don't get everything done off the list, but I've been doing this forever. And it's weird. You read these lists back. I have, like, for example, talking about Mace Music that years before I formed Mace Music, I was writing about that. I'm going to start this music corporation. And, I pulled it all up. But all these things I just remember. Rob and I would get together in the studio with an acoustic guitar, and he's got a good voice. And we like sing Beatles songs and we were.
It was late, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
And I can't say we were exactly sober.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was funny. Like I'll give you an example. Like one of the times we went to one of the hotel rooms in Freeze, and Mark McNally, our best friend, we're like the three amigos. There's a gallon of vodka. It's almost empty. The bed is broken, and part of it's the mattress is on the floor, and he's laying passed out with his head this way. And we thought nothing of it. It's okay. And it's just funny. And you look at these times, and like I said, Rob's been sober for quarter of a century. I've been. I can drink a few beers and say no. Alcoholic cannot.
Yeah, you
never
drink
had one
that
and you have
problem, really,
50. I don't drink that much at all, and I sure as heck don't do any drugs. In fact, I think about partying nowadays, and it makes me kind of sick. Not literally sick, but in my brain, I think, coming down. Or you're sitting there at 4 a.m. going.
Oh, God.
And so it's just a
And
lesson.
the birds are chirping. Oh, God.
You got to do something the next day. But we were young and we could do that, because a lot of people when you're young, go to bars, you party, you have fun.
You don't go out till 10 o'clock at night, and
Yeah.
now it's like nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah. But even back in the Nitro days, Jim and I were totally straight. We said, we had a slogan on our album, drugs are for dumb Fs. Don't be a dumb F, and a 4-letter word. And we meant it, because, you just, and again, I don't have that personality where I got addicted to something, but it didn't matter. I could tell back then this is going to, and I saw people's lives ruined. And the reason I'm saying this, it's self-discipline. This is a life lesson. Rob is an example of self-discipline. He's got a great son. What does Tom do? Now
He's a chemist.
Yeah, so he's got a,
beautiful wife, Christina, and 2 beautiful grandkids.
Yeah, and it's I remember holding Tommy
Yeah,
when he was a baby.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he's like,
yeah, and now he's an adult and married with 2 kids, and but it's when you straighten things out, whether it's playing guitar, it's self-discipline. You have to have the discipline in your life to make changes, it's it's for example, lucid intervals and moments of clarity.
Yeah.
That's a slogan, isn't
Right,
it?
yeah, that's what I heard, lucid intervals somewhere. Like, yeah, a moment of clarity. you
Yeah,
know.
and I told Rob, back then, if we could, let's do this album, and you had just gotten sober for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And and that's what isn't that the phrase? Isn't that what it's
well,
about?
yeah.
Lucid intervals? No?
Yeah, that was from, but yeah, that's where it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got it from.
Yeah, where you have a lucid interval and a moment of clarity.
It's like, what am I doing? And when you're in the middle of it, sometimes it's really hard to. You can't see clearly, and it's clouded. Everything's clouded.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you get this, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I got to do something about it. And then that's where the self-discipline comes in, where there are things that you have to do. It's just like playing guitar, playing drums, practicing, all that. You have to do it, And more importantly, I wanted to do it. So
Yeah. Well, and even with COVID, you hear about a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people I'll just come out and say it, lazy. Everybody was lenient about money and even I found that out myself. Like I started drinking more at night, and I told Rob, I go, Rob, I'm drinking too much right now. Now it wasn't a lot, but it was more than I normally do. Rob looks at me, and goes, well then don't drink. And it's like it's like, check this one out. Back in the day, when I was in Nitro, the Gold's Gym shirt, I was thin as heck, but I was really ripped. My abs were like chiseled. And even though I'm super thin for the day back then, everybody kind of was thinner, just the people were a little thinner. And so I didn't look as skinny then as I do now looking back. But I remember that I was doing this exercise. It cuts your shoulder. You do this. You lift weights like this. And so I was doing 4 reps of 15, but there's a thing called gym jealousy. And what this is you see other people working out and there starts to be a silent competition. You see somebody working out, say with 50 pounds this, so you want to do 55 or 60. It's this kind of competition. Well, I started getting into that and I was pretty strong. I could do, 4 sets of dips and, I could carry my own weight really well. And I did these weights too heavy and I messed up my wrist. What I didn't know is I actually toured throughout the entire 90s and the early 2000s with a dislocated wrist, and I was still able to play because my picking technique doesn't move. So anyway, I tell Rob one day, and what happened is my ex-fiance is a doctor, and she actually was the one who told me. She goes, you realize you have a dislocated wrist? I go, what? And because it hurt when I did this, but it never hurt anywhere else. If I did this, so I go out to Rob, I go, Rob, it hurts when I do this. And he goes,
don't do that.
Don't do it. Duh! The voice of reason. But my ex actually took my wrist and pushed it, and I heard it pops into place. Then it got dislocated again, and it didn't hurt me at all. When I play guitar like this, I never even felt it. But it hurt like heck when I did this.
Why do you have to do this?
Yeah, I'm like, exactly, don't do this. It hurts when I do this, well then don't do it. But here's the thing. When people make excuses about things, excuses are okay. But you can't, it's like the BS detector. If you BS yourself, if you could have done something, you don't do it. Anybody can make an excuse and blame somebody else. But whether it's guitar or a life lesson, you have to have the self-discipline. First of all, he had the self-discipline to quit and stay that way. And his whole life changed. He plays drums at a high level, still can sing, plays guitar. We do a lot of stuff musically. He's got a great band, close friends. With me, the self-discipline was there on guitar, and it didn't matter if I had a dislocated wrist. I played. I didn't make excuses. I didn't know what happened. I never thought about it because it really hurt when I did this, but when I played guitar, it didn't hurt. And so, that idea about just having the discipline within yourself. And I wanted to bring Rob up here because, when I think about things, there are a lot of people in life that have it worse than everybody that's watching, and me and Rob and Adam, but it's excuses are excuses. And it's like with Speed Kills. I showed people how to play fast. I gave you the keys to the Lamborghini, but I can't make you drive the car. You have to drive the car. And that's the point. And even now, at my age, I still practice a lot. Rob was playing electronic kit. We're playing music. We do all sorts of stuff. And then we wore the same T-shirt during.
Yeah, I know.
People are going, dude, man, I didn't know you could play drums
they
like
took,
that.
It was when I came in, and they took the shot from up. They were standing on a chair, and it looked, from top, it looked like Mike.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we kind of look like brothers from another mother. Cynthia asked a question. She goes, how do you find new approaches to self-discipline when the old approaches have failed? Well, if they failed,
You got to find a
you got
different
to
way.
find something else.
Right.
It's kind of like if you're playing guitar like this and it's not working for you, you have to change. You have to do workarounds. You have to find solutions. It's called solution mode. Well, that's one way to say it. If you have a problem, the best thing to do, like Cynthia just did, is you identify the problem. It's like, I can't pick fast, man. See, that's why Speed Kills and my instructional programs work so good. I cut to the chase. I know I talk a lot during the live streams, but when I say Speed Kills, I talk specifically about speed. How do you want to be faster? Playing alternate picking, doing hammers and pulls, doing economy picking. It's how do you want to do it? I give you the answers to every technique, and you concentrate solely on that technique. It's a means to an end. The better technique you have, the more challenging music you can play. It doesn't mean that I don't love Pink Floyd or David Gilmour. It just means that I had the self-discipline to say I want to do more on guitar. I want to play left-handed. I want to invent a double guitar. So Cynthia, what you should do is find some inspiration. Read an inspirational book. Look at people, whether they're athletes. Like I was a big Walter Payton fan. I was a huge Bear fan because Walter Payton, the running back of the Chicago Bears, they won a Super Bowl. He was one of the first football athletes that trained in the off season. Yeah. And he was, he never got injured badly in football as a running back. He broke so many records, but the guy was a real inspiration. So I don't just look at guitar players or musicians. I'll look at athletes. I'll look at Frank Lloyd Wright, the great architect. He was in his late 70s and still producing great music. Look at Paul McCartney. He's a billionaire. He's 80 years old and he's still touring, and he's still got the energy of youth. So all these people can be inspirations. And I'll never forget Jim Gillette too, and then I'll let you talk. And
It's okay, you're doing fine.
but I remember Jim Gillette. He is a great example. Jim is one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. First of all, he could sing like nobody. I mean, basically, if there was a note on a piano, high or low, he could sing it. And he never lost his voice. He never even warmed up. I went, he's got that vocal series called, he's like Metal Monster. It's like a metal method for vocals, metal power. And I asked him one time, we're recording the first Nitro album, we were doing the song called Bring It Down. And of course, he didn't go bring it down, he went bring it down, like 3 octaves higher, which I loved. It was like, like why bring it down? Down, our level of down is up in the stratosphere. But I told him, I go, dude, why don't you ever warm up? I'm sitting there like playing for hours. He looks at me with this look like, what? And he goes, I'm the metal power monster. He didn't have to warm up. It was in his head. But Jim had a great work ethic, and he still does. He used to tell me, he goes, dude, let's write. We wrote so many songs together. And then he also told me, too, when I got into Nitro, I'd already had a major label deal, and I was already in my early 30s. And he told me one time when we first got together, he goes, dude, don't ever be bitter, dude. Don't ever be bitter. Because one of the things, if you start feeling like, well, I should have made it, why are these guys, or why are these people doing it before me? it's not the way you look at it. You can't quit. You have to judge yourself by yourself. So and like with guitar players, I love seeing new guitar players. I love Polyphia and, Pliny and all these people, Guthrie Govan. The list goes on and on and on. Michael Romeo, even though he's not new, he's amazing. Sean Lane back in the day. But I don't judge myself against them. I judge myself against myself. And again, it's this idea of the self-discipline to, one, you have to recognize you have a problem. Okay, that's first and foremost. And two, you got to find a solution to that problem. And three, if it doesn't work, how many times did you have to go to?
Oh God, I don't even want to.
Yeah. So it's more than
I
once.
kept plugging at it, and eventually it worked. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And nobody's going to change it for you.
Yeah.
What it's about really is doing the work.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And you know what? If you want inspiration, look at people who have done things. That's what I do. I look at people for inspiration. And it doesn't have to be in music. It can be in arts. It could be a mathematician. It could be an instructor, a teacher. Somebody asked what picks that I use. I use the ChromaCast MAB picks. They're shaped like kind of like a Jazz 3, but they're Tortex. And it's that's not really the word. It's like a tissue being called a Kleenex. But the material gets a little bit brighter sound. It's Devlin or something. I can't remember the name of the material. But it's maybe 1.2 millimeters. They are really fantastic picks, and they're really pointed. We worked a long time to try and get them. You can get them through ChromaCast. All right, Rob, do you have anything
Somebody
to add?
asked what we use to program drums, and we used the Roland R8 at the time, but I play everything now. I've had injuries with my neck and problems with other things, and for the 90s, I was nowhere. Mike would call me up, and people would call me up, and I just wouldn't answer them. So, but
Yeah.
yes, and Jim Johnson. Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
remember-
Delrin, that's the name
What?
of it.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking somebody. Yes, somebody asked about picks. Believe it or not, with the Dunlap Jazz 3s, I'm not saying I invented the Jazz 3 because I didn't. That's a Dunlap. I was one of the first rock guitarists ever to talk about using a Jazz 3. See, because I'm being older, I got to do things first. And especially in rock and instructional programs, I was on the ground floor of this. So when I did my very first instructional program, basically in the mid-'80s, I filmed it in '86. It came out January 1st of 1987. And what did I talk about? I was a rock guitar player, extreme metal, super fast, using jazz picks that I used my whole life. And I remember John Petrucci telling me that he got the idea for jazz picks from me. Now these Jazz 3s have become kind of standard. So many rock, or if you don't use a Jazz 3, because I never liked that Fender style. I just never was comfortable. I thought they were too big, too round. When I'm a little kid, I was 12 years old going, I like these picks, they suck. And so what I started using was mandolin picks because they were small and pointed. And then when I found out about the Jazz 3, one of my students actually told me, check out this pick. I was like, oh my God, this is the pick. And so what we did with my signature pick is I like smaller picks. I like them very pointed. Basically, here's what a Jazz 3 does. It makes your sound a little warmer, and you either hit it or you miss it. That's it. Because they're not flapping, they're not round, they're not big, they're small and precise. And my own feeling, nobody told me this. I gravitated towards that from my own playing. Nobody told me. Just like nobody showed me how to invent a double guitar or do the over-under. These are things that I just did myself because I was in the era. We didn't even have tab programs. my first instructional video, I had to hand write it. And I did, because I studied notation in school. But again, I took the self-discipline part of it was I took the time to ask the questions in my head and give myself the answers by, I just kept looking at guitar picks when I was a little kid, where I went to school, where I went to get guitar lessons, which the place was called Carnes Music. It's way gone now, Karnes, Carnes Music, and it's gone. But I would just look at these boxes of picks, and I found the mandolin, and I didn't like them, and I said, "Do you have anything else?" And the guy at the counter says, "Well, how about mandolin picks?" And I said, "Let me see them." And that's when I found it. I found what I was looking for. They were heavy, thick, and they were pointed, and they were small. They were like teardrops. They weren't like these, but this is my signature pick. It's very much like a Jazz 3. So, I wanted to put that because a lot of people are writing about this. And then, anyway, Rob, is there, I can say Rob's my best friend, and then we have Mark McNally. He's like right there, we're like the three amigos. We all grew up together. But you get inspiration from all different places. But the word that comes to mind, the phrase is self-discipline, that the people who seem to do our successes, and this is not successful monetarily, this is success in life. I never played guitar thinking my goal has never been to be the richest guy in the world. That's, my ex used to call it the circle of desire. When you chase money, you become in this circle, and all your brain does is that make you happy? And a lot of times those people are never happy. My dad used to say, "Son, you don't have to be the richest person in the world. You don't have to be the most famous. Be happy." I'm happy. You happy, Rob?
I'm happy.
We're happy.
Yeah.
We get to hang out. We get to play music. I do whatever I want. I don't have no police telling me to do anything. And neither does Rob. We get to, and then we have just a interesting success story. We keep seeming to create music that blows up. It's like I said, Hurt. It's in my top 5 most requested Spotify songs. Rob played on it. No Boundaries, I've got probably 35 or 40 million views on the internet just of that song. One video alone, 23 million. Who played on it? Rob. And then 2X Again, he played on the demo and the album version. Rainforest.
That 2X Again was the one. Rob, I erased the drum track.
On 2X Again, we programmed it, because it was my first solo album, No Boundaries. Rob did all the programming, and he always comes up with these wild syncopated beats that groove. And I remember I went to save it, and I hit erase. It was your fault, Angelo, not mine. So it was crazy, and I was like, Rob.
What's wrong now, Mike?
And we just redid it. Rob didn't go, "Oh my God, I can't repeat it." He just went, "Okay," and then he redid it. And
it's in your head anyway. That was the whole thing about programming drums. You have to make it playable. You could program 30-second notes with 260 BPM. Can anybody play that? No,
I can.
Maybe.
No, I warm up. I do 220, 230,
Yeah. 240.
But it's just But the thing is, one of the I get into this mindset, and a lot of it, I had a guy. I don't answer very many questions on private messages because I get so many. I can't. I'm sorry. I do this publicly. But somebody did ask me a question because it was a person that I worked with that had to switch from right-handed to left-handed because he got into a terrible accident. He couldn't play.
Yeah.
So what?
I remember you talking
Yeah,
about.
so I helped this person learn how to play left-handed.
Yeah, look at it.
But he messaged me the other day saying, how he's hit a plateau and he feels terrible, and it's a genuine thing. Sometimes you practice and you don't improve. And I told him that. I said, there are times in your life where you do hit a plateau. And I said, you got to do 2 things. 1, take a step back, take a break for a couple days. 2, get your positive attitude back. Because if you quit, you'll never be able to do it. But if you keep persevering, fate has a way of saying, okay, this person suffered enough. whether, this person's going through a lot, but if you don't quit, you can do it. And I don't want to sound like Rocky Balboa or The Hobbit or, Lord of the Rings, you got to get the ring to, and kill the, dissolve the ring. But it's a simple truth. If you've got to have that self-discipline to just clamp down and do it, and finish the job.
Well, stepping away for a couple of days, when you're really close to it, I mean, you see yourself in the mirror every day, and if your hair grows and you see yourself in the mirror every day, you see yourself in the mirror. But if somebody let your hair grow for a year, a person will see and go, wow, So a lot of times we don't see the improvement, and stepping away and then coming back sometimes it works out pretty well too.
Yeah. Somebody asked you a question, Rob. They said, is it harder to play drums when you get older?
No, actually, I think I'm a better drummer now than I was before. But,
And he's still real fast, single stroke rolls.
And and it's the same thing. You warm up. I mean, I think I'm better and I'm at least as fast as I was when I was young. But it's practice. You need to. I need to. I don't know. Maybe you don't, but I need to practice.
Well,
and I know Mike practices a lot.
I do. But I have a different practice regimen that I did when I was younger, because when I was younger, I was just so fast. I mean, it's the energy of youth. That's how we could survive. That's why people can party when they're young and they can recover right away. It's this energy of being young. And as you get older, you find you have to adjust your game a little bit. And Phil Jackson, the coach of the Chicago Bulls and the Lakers, said this to Michael Jordan, that when Jordan came back into basketball, he had played baseball for a few years and wasn't very good at it, but he had won 3 championships in his early 20s. He comes back in his later 20s, and Phil Jackson said this, and I live by this. He said, you are not the player in your late 20s that you were in your early 20s, meaning, you can't do these spectacular, flashy dunks and all this stuff. He goes, but you have to do one thing, adjust your game. And what did Jordan do? Instead of going to the hole, he developed the fadeaway. He would go like he's looking to do a layup, back off, shoot this perfect swish. He was just as effective older as he was younger, and won 3 more championships.
Well, athletes, they warm up.
Yeah.
You see them stretching, and it's the same thing. And when you're younger, though, I remember I wouldn't warm up, and 30 seconds into the show, I'm warm. It took me less to warm up, and that's the big difference. And back to what you're talking about, Michael Jordan, it's like a baseball pitcher. He comes up and he's throwing 100 miles an hour, and he's just throwing. And then when you get a little bit older, you lose some velocity. So then he has to learn how to play the game, how to pitch,
right. Yeah.
Instead of. When you're young, it's easy. I think it's maybe a little more simple, but I don't care what age you're at. You probably should warm up if you're near. I should have.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do now. See, I do the same warm-up exercise to start with that. Somebody asked for a pinch harmonic. But what I've learned is now I set up programs where I start at 185, sometimes I'll start at 190 at 16th notes. So you hear, and just So I'll play for about 5 minutes at that speed, then I'll crank it up 5 BPM, now 190, crank it up to 195, 200. After 200, I go to 210, then 220, then 230, and I have the max at 250. And I'm playing 16th notes, so it's really fast. But see, and it's a warm-up because, you feel, sometimes you struggle. 185 is like... somewhere in the 185, 190 range. And so, and if somebody checks it out, we can check it. And yeah, but I like metronomes, but I like software too. But anyway, the point is, I build up to the speed now, and man, and I'm just as fast, if not faster. And see, that's the point that Rob was saying too. That age is not a barrier. You just have to adjust your game a little bit and play to your strengths. And so, like, can you just jump in and play? Well, it's probably better not to, like Rob said, an athlete. But if you warm up and you warm up properly and you don't hurt yourself, and you know, like I gradually work up to this. By the time I'm at 210, then I back it down to like 185. It seems like I'm walking. And it's so funny because after you start playing at these really fast velocities, you backtrack and you're like, man, that's slow. Where when it started off, you had to kind of struggle a little bit, and it's just a great thing to do. But
I found that too, you know, where 10 minutes after I start practicing, I'm able to, it does seem slow, you know. So.
yeah. But anyway, I think that's about it. You know, we didn't talk too much, or I didn't play too much guitar, but I have a lot of these videos out there. So, I mean, there's well over 70, 80 episodes of this show, and a lot of them I do talk about the technique and play a lot. Next week I'll be playing a lot more. But I wanted to get Rob on here because he's a true success story, and we're really good friends, but he's a great musician. But he's great in life, you know, success in life. That's the key thing for me. You know, it doesn't mean you're the most famous or the richest. That's never been my goal. But a successful person in life. How do you treat other people? Do you help people? You know, I love to teach. You know, I love to give my knowledge away. And man, I built up this list of some really famous guitarists that have studied my programs. And my goal was this. It wasn't to make money on an instructional video. It never was. It was to actually help you. Because if I could help you, it helped me be a better guitarist too. Because I would know in my own head what exactly I was doing to get as good as I was. But anyway, I want to say thanks, everybody.
And thanks for having me on, Mike. And thanks, everybody. And happiness is not a place.
That's true. It's in your head. But anyway, Joey wants to say, I don't care what Angelo says. It's still my show, and I'm the star. See? And so, but anyway, on behalf of Sawtooth Guitars, remember, they've got a big sale going on. My instructional videos at Metal Method, learn-to-shred, learn-to-shred.com. But you got to put the little hyphen in between that. It's my own URL from Metal Method. Speed Kills works. It works. And it's continued to work. It will work 50 years from now. The methodology is sound, just like a Floyd Rose's sound. But anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you, and we have a lot of new music we're going to be playing. The MAB band will be playing in LA Saturday, September 24th. It's kind of a tune-up show, so it's real close to Universal Studios, but it's UBG, it's the Universal bar, and a lot of bands play there. It's a really cool, intimate venue. It's going to be packed to the rafters. So get there early, but Saturday, September 24th, Southern California in the Valley, the Universal Bar, it goes by UBG as well. So anyway, but thanks, Sawtooth rules. Their company Chromacast is great. Go DPS, the app is amazing. Go DPS Music Live. I'm Michelangelo Badio. Ciao!